Hey guys, before we start, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you have any feedback. Let's go to the story. I grew up feeling like a ghost in my own home. From as early as I can remember, my parents only had eyes for my younger brother, Roman. He was the golden child, the rosy-cheeked, bubbly baby everyone cooed over, while I was the skinny, quiet kid lurking in the background. Mom and Dad, Patrick and Marin showered Roman with praise for every little thing. A scribbled crayon drawing earned him a spot on the fridge and endless compliments, whereas my straight-A report card was shrugged off and tossed aside without a second glance. As Roman and I grew, so did the imbalance. He evolved into a spoiled bully, and unbelievably, I, his older brother, became one of his favorite targets. With my parents always taking his side, every day felt like I was living in his world, and I was just an extra in the scene, unseen and unheard. Family dinners, vacations, even TV time, Roman got to choose everything. If I voiced a preference, I was immediately shut down, my opinion treated as irrelevant. I remember sitting in the back seat during family vacations, quietly sulking as Roman excitedly dictated where we'd go and what we'd do. It was as if my role was simply to exist, never to shine. Birthdays were mere formalities, achievements went unnoticed. Once, in third grade, I dared to hope things might be different. I had earned perfect grades and rushed home, report card in hand, heart swelling with pride. Mom's response? A distracted, "That's nice," before turning her attention back to Roman's crooked drawing that got a prime spot on the fridge. Moments like that seared into me the understanding that in our family, I was practically invisible. By the time I neared high school graduation, I was desperate to get out of the shadow of my family. I studied hard, often by myself in the library while my parents were busy cheering Roman on at his soccer games or whatever his latest interest was. My effort paid off. I earned a full scholarship to one of the top colleges in the country, a dream school that could launch my future. For the first time, something big was going right for me. But, true to form, my parents couldn't let me have that victory. The college was a few states away, and immediately, Mom and Dad balked at the idea. They insisted I turn it down and attend a local college instead. The reason? Roman might feel bad that he didn't get into such a prestigious place. I'll never forget the conversation. "You know," Dad said, "we think you should stay local. It wouldn't be fair to your brother if you went off to that school." Fair to my brother? Roman wasn't even applying to colleges. He had zero interest in academics. He could have worked hard like I did to earn something, but no, my parents preferred to hold me back to protect Roman's ego. That was my breaking point. I realized then that if I didn't stand up for myself, I'd be stuck under their thumb forever. So, I hatched a quiet little plan. I agreed to their demand on one condition. I would attend the local college only if they let me live in the dorms on campus. They thought I was compromising and happily accepted. Maybe they figured I'd finally fallen in line. In reality, the second I got their permission, I took off. I moved states away to attend the prestigious college on my scholarship without telling them. To cover my tracks, I let them believe I was dorming at the local school. I even let Dad keep sending me money for tuition, which I guiltlessly used for my living expenses. I saw it as years of neglect repaid in cash. For once, I was doing something for me. I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration as I settled into campus life across state lines, knowing my parents were none the wiser. College was everything I'd hoped for and more. In that supportive environment, I thrived. Freed from my family's toxicity, I poured myself into my studies. The program was intense. I had to cram a 4-year course into 2 thanks to the accelerated track, but I loved every minute of it. Late-night study sessions in the library, actual professors who noticed my work, friends who knew me, and not just as Roman's brother. It felt like I had finally stepped into the sunlight after years in the shadows. And I excelled. I sailed through and graduated with top honors in 2 years. By age 21, I had a diploma from one of the world's best colleges and, thanks to the school's reputation, a lucrative job offer waiting for me. The day I landed my first job with a 6-figure salary, I remember sitting in my tiny new apartment in a city my parents didn't even know I lived in and crying tears of relief and joy. I had done it. I had broken free and made a life for myself, no thanks to them. During those college years, contact with my family was minimal by design. I made an occasional obligatory phone call or holiday visit back home, always timing it on a school break so as not to arouse suspicion. Each time, it struck me how little Mom and Dad inquired about my life. They never questioned why I didn't bring laundry home from the dorms or why I didn't talk about local classmates. It was like they didn't really care what I was doing as long as I stayed out of their way and kept the status quo. And honestly, that suited me fine. It still hurt that they were so indifferent that they hadn't even noticed their eldest son now lived hundreds of miles away, but the peace of being away from their constant put-downs was well worth it. I had accepted that family for me meant something I would have to find or create elsewhere. Then one day, about a year after my early graduation, I got a call from Dad out of the blue. We weren't in regular contact unless I initiated it, so I was pretty surprised. He had news. "Roman is getting married," he said briskly, "and we expect you home. We need you here a few days before the wedding to help with preparations." I nearly dropped the phone. There was no, "How have you been?" or "We'd love to see you." Just a demand, like I was staff. Still, beneath my annoyance, I felt this stupid flicker of hope or longing. They actually wanted me home. Me, the forgotten son. Dad even said, "Of course you're part of the family. We want everyone together for Roman's big day." For a second, that 8-year-old version of me that had once desperately sought their approval started to get emotional. Part of me had craved this acknowledgement for so long. My father explicitly calling me part of the family. It was almost enough to make me forget how much they'd ignored me in the past. But only almost. Reality set back in quickly. These were the same parents who had barely spoken to me in years. The same brother who never cared about my milestones was now supposedly disappointed that I might not be at his. It all felt suspicious. Why was I suddenly so important to their perfect picture? I told Dad I'd think about it. After hanging up, I paced my apartment for hours, heart pounding. A part of me ached at the idea of missing my brother's wedding, not because I cared about Roman's feelings, he never cared about mine, but because some naive part of me thought, if I do this, maybe I'll finally truly belong among them. Maybe we can start fresh. Another part of me was terrified that if I went back, I'd slip into my old role, the punching bag, the ignored one. I barely slept that night. By morning, I had made up my mind. I texted Dad a short, polite refusal. "I won't be able to make it to the wedding." No long explanation. I figured I didn't owe them one. After all, they never explained years of neglect to me. I expected fallout, but I wasn't prepared for how fast and how nasty it came. Within an hour, my phone blew up with messages. First, Mom. She tried guilt. "Do you really want to be the one son who isn't there for your brother's big day? You know how it will break Roman's heart if you don't show up." She piled it on thick, talking about how you only get one family and how I shouldn't throw that away. It was almost laughable, hearing her suddenly act like we were a close-knit family. This was coming from the woman who hadn't noticed or cared that I missed every holiday at home the past 2 years because I always claimed I was busy with studies, and she never once pressed further. I replied, "No, I'm not coming. I'm sorry." When guilt didn't work, Dad took over and went straight to threats. He called, voice edged with anger masquerading as calm, and said, "If you don't show up, I'm cutting off the money for your college. We won't pay another dime." He said they couldn't afford the embarrassment of people gossiping that one son didn't attend the wedding. There it was, the real reason they wanted me there. Not out of love or missing me, but to keep up appearances. They needed the backdrop of a perfect family for the neighbors. My attendance was just another prop for their image. Something snapped in me. I was no longer that timid kid, and this was the final insult. I told Dad, with an unexpected steadiness in my voice, "Go ahead. Cut me off." I even let out a short laugh and added, "I'm not in the local college, Dad. I haven't been for a long time. I graduated last year without any help from you. I have a great job. I don't need your money." Silence. I could practically hear him processing my words, the gears turning in confusion and rage. He sputtered, What do you mean you graduated?" I spared him no details. I told him about the scholarship, the prestigious college, the degree I earned in 2 years, and the 6-figure salary I was now making, 10 times his income, as it happened. Maybe it was petty, but finally revealing my success felt damn good. Dad's shock quickly morphed into fury. He started shouting that I betrayed them, that I was ungrateful after all they'd done for me. That made me outright angry. "All you've done for me?" I shot back. "You mean the years you and Mom ignored me unless you needed something? The times you sabotaged my opportunities for Roman's sake? Face it, you have only ever had one son that mattered to you, and it wasn't me." Dad fell quiet for a second and then tried one last card. "We'll forgive this deception, but you must come to the wedding. That's the only way we can move past this." I almost couldn't believe it. After everything, he was still fixated on me attending the wedding to make them look good. I realized then that he didn't care at all about my life or accomplishments. Only the humiliation I'd caused by slipping out of his control. It was absurd. I told him I didn't need or want his forgiveness, and I certainly wasn't going to pretend to be part of a happy family that never existed. Enjoy Roman's wedding without me, I said firmly. As far as I'm concerned, you can keep your one son, because I'm done. Before he could respond, I hung up. Then, I blocked my parents' numbers. My hands were shaking, but I felt an overwhelming sense of liberation. For the first time, I had said my piece. I had stood up to them and put an end to their manipulation. In the aftermath, I had mixed feelings. There was an ache knowing I had truly severed ties with my parents and brother. It's not what I ever wanted. I had dreamed, foolishly, that one day they'd accept and love me. But I also felt a weight off my chest. I was free from their toxic games. I focused on my job and my friends, trying to move forward and not dwell on the family I never really had. Over a month passed with no contact, and I started to heal. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I normally ignore those, but something made me answer. It was Mom. I was this close to hanging up, but I could hear immediately that she was crying. My heart skipped. Was someone hurt? Despite everything, a sliver of worry crept in. What's wrong? I asked cautiously. Through sobs, she managed to choke out. I miss you, please. I want my son back. We can forget all this fighting. Just come home. This was the most emotion I'd ever heard from her directed at me. I might have leapt at those words if this had happened a year ago. But now, I sensed something was off. Why now? Why after I had made it abundantly clear I was done? I pressed her a bit, and she just kept pleading vaguely and apologizing for everything. It didn't sit right with me. I told her I'd think about what she said and ended the call to get to the bottom of it. I reached out to my aunt, Mom's sister, who I barely spoke with normally. As soon as she picked up, I blurted, "What's going on at home?" My aunt didn't hold back. The story she told left me stunned. It turns out Roman's picture-perfect wedding never happened because his fiancée was a con artist. Weeks before the wedding, that woman convinced my parents, Roman, and even some extended family members to invest in a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity. In reality, it was a scam. She took all their money and vanished right before the wedding day. Not only was the wedding canceled, but a huge chunk of my family's savings went down the drain with her. My jaw dropped as my aunt relayed how my parents were devastated and humiliated. And that wasn't all. On the professional front, Dad had run into serious trouble. He blew up at an employee and that person's family in a very public, very ugly confrontation. Something to do with his business, which was already on shaky ground. Word spread around town, and it hurt his company's reputation badly. Contracts were canceled, and clients pulled out. Financially, my parents were in freefall. In desperation, they'd even taken out a second mortgage on the house to keep the business afloat, and now that gamble was failing too. They were on the brink of losing the house I grew up in. In short, within a matter of weeks, my parents' world collapsed. The golden son they had built their life around, his choice in a partner, and their decision to trust her blindly, is what ultimately wrecked them. The irony would have been delicious if it weren't so tragic. Suddenly, everything clicked. The frantic calls and messages, Mom's come home, my son's sob story. It wasn't about love or remorse. It was about need. They were drowning and grabbing at me like a life preserver. They knew, from my angry revelations to Dad, that I was successful now and likely had money. I represented their last hope of bailing themselves out of the mess they'd made. I felt a surge of anger and something like dark vindication. After years of them treating me like I was nothing, now they expected me to save them. It was almost laughable that a few days later, my suspicions and my aunt's intel were proven right in the most dramatic way. My parents showed up at my doorstep. I have no idea how they found my address, perhaps pestering old neighbors or relatives, but there they were, looking worn and desperate. The moment I saw their faces through the peephole, my heart pounded with a mix of anxiety and anger. I opened the door just a crack. They immediately launched into a speech that was rehearsed about family and responsibility and how, as their son, I should help them in a time of crisis. Dad said, "We took care of you. Now it's your turn to take care of us." I stared at them, almost in disbelief at the audacity. In that moment, I felt years of hurt bubbling up as a steely resolve. I managed to say very quietly, "You ignored me for years. I owe you nothing." Then, Without waiting for a reply, I shut the door in their faces. They banged on it and begged. Mom even said they had spent the last of their savings on the plane tickets to see me, and they had nowhere else to turn. I hesitated for just a moment, picturing them traveling here with literally nothing left, and I felt a pang of something, pity maybe? But then I remembered 8-year-old me begging Mom to come to a school play, and her not even looking up from fussing over toddler Roman. I remembered the teenage me asking Dad for advice, only to be brushed off because Roman needed something. Those memories were enough to harden my heart. I told them through the door, "Leave now, or I'll call the police." Eventually, their pleas stopped, and I heard them walk away. That I wish I could say that was the end, but Roman himself was next to appear the very next day. I suppose with my parents striking out, they sent the golden child, thinking I'd relent for him. Roman knocked, and before I could slam the door, he pushed his foot in the way. He looked terrible, eyes red, face unshaven, a far cry from the cocky kid I remembered. He actually started crying, saying he was sorry for everything, that he missed me, that he needed my help. "Please, bro, I messed up so bad," he blubbered. "Mom and Dad are going to cut me off if you don't help fix this." That hit a nerve. All my life, I wanted my brother to show a hint of remorse or care, and here he was, seemingly doing it. But his words, he wasn't sorry for how he treated me. He was sorry he got himself into a mess. He was still selfish, still thinking of himself, even framing his apology around the fact that our parents might, finally, hold him accountable. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and spoke through gritted teeth. "Roman, you didn't have a big brother, remember? You made sure of that with how you treated me. I'm done." He kept pleading, but I'd had enough. I told him to get off my property, or I'd call the cops on my own brother. It was perhaps the hardest thing I've ever done, and the look on his face, a mix of shock, desperation, and despair, will stay with me. But I had to do it. I shut the door on him, just as I had with our parents. Since that day, I haven't heard from any of them. I've blocked them on everything. There's a part of me that's incredibly sad. Not for losing them. Truth is, I never truly had them to begin with, but sad for the family I wish I'd had. There's an emptiness when your parents are alive, but might as well not be. I won't lie, it hurts. That void will always be there somewhere inside me. But I'm filling it with better things, with friends who are like siblings, with mentors and colleagues who value me, and one day, I hope, with a family of my own built on love and respect. Standing firm against my toxic family was painful, but it was the right choice. I finally stood up for the neglected boy I used to be and for the man I've become. I won't be their afterthought or their safety net ever again. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away, even if you walk away alone. In my case, I may have lost the people who raised me, but I gained freedom, self-respect, and the chance to surround myself with people who truly care. And that's worth everything.